everyone, and welcome back to Art Historian. Today we're going to be talking about Diego Velázquez, who was a Spanish painter born in June of 1599, who died in August of 1660. And he was actually an impressionist or a realist painter, but due to the timeline and some of the content of his paintings, we are grouping him in with the Baroque category today, obviously. A couple of notable facts about Velázquez was he was the lead painter in the court of King Philip IV, and he inspired many other artists like Edward Manet, Pablo Picasso, Salvador Dali, Francisco Goya, and Francis Bacon. So one of my YouTube friends, actually, shout out to Pedro, asked me to do this video on Velázquez, and I hadn't learned much about him up until this point. So I set out to make this video, and I learned many things myself about this fantastic artist. He's actually quickly becoming one of my favorite artists that we've talked about so far, and a big reason for that is his painting Triumph of Bacchus, which is what we're going to look at today. But before we do, I want to give you some historical context so that you can better understand why the painting means so much to me and to the world of art during the Baroque era. Up to this point, most of the art world, including a lot of Velázquez's early works, were mostly still lifes and religious paintings. You can see examples of this by Velázquez in Christ in the House of Martha and Mary and Old Woman Cooking Eggs, which are all interesting and have plenty of value and merit by themselves, but they're a little uptight and stuffy and a lot of the same of what we've already seen. So I'm looking through his paintings, I'm trying to get to know Velázquez, and I come across Triumph of Bacchus, and I think this is it. This is something special. So Velázquez reaches this point in his career where he's been commissioned by King Philip IV to paint a Greek god, and he chooses to do it as an oil painting on canvas, and it's completed between 1626 and 1628. And being commissioned for a Greek god is the pinnacle of Baroque painting. This is the big leagues. And you all know how we usually see Bacchus. He's in his golden chariot. He's got all these grapes and vines and leaves and wines all around him, surrounded by other gods and goddesses and these beautiful, wealthy people. And we've even seen him by Caravaggio kind of the day after this great big party where he's not feeling so well, he's a little bit green, but he's still this cherub-faced Bacchus that we know. Velázquez does something different. Velázquez sits our beautiful cherub-faced Bacchus shrouded in his grapevines on a barrel in the middle of this tavern with a bunch of peasants. These guys are gritty. They're not clean shaven. This guy has his shirt off. This guy is staring right at the viewer like he's posing for a picture. And if you want to talk about progressive, Bacchus is crowning these guys in his own grape wreaths. Now history has all but renamed this painting the Drunks, or in the Spanish form of the word, Los Borrachos. Sorry if I mispronounced that. Which I think is very fitting because all this time, all throughout the rest of art history up to this point, we've been thinking that Bacchus is the star of the show. And it turns out these guys in the middle have stolen the spotlight from him. And I think that's because up to this point in Velázquez's career, he's spent his whole career painting still lifes and religious works and falling in love with the value of these everyday items that he spends so much care into recreating. He's fallen in love with everyday life. He's going to be at the bar, whether it's Bacchus there or whether it's Joe from down the street. These peasants obviously know how to have a good time too. So he finally gets to paint a Greek god, and he just can't help but add in the things that make everyday life beautiful. It looks like Bacchus got lost after a chariot crash, stumbled down to the local tavern, and had a great time while he was there. And so we talk about all of the emotion that went into this. There's also a lot of emotion that's displayed in this. So many of these characters that Velázquez depicts have all these different emotions on their faces, which is a pretty ambitious leap coming from religious works and still lifes of his early career, moving into this new wave of realism. Here's my cat. Now, most of the trends that we see surface in art history, like everything in life, have a darker underside. In the case of Triumph of Bacchus, the dark side of this is that despite the good qualities that you could take away from this painting, you can also take away some negative ones. And we can imagine that the upper class of the time did just that. They may have looked at these peasants and thought they were lazy or drunken or gluttonous. They may have thought that they were drunk all the time. However, largely it was a refreshing change to see the people Bacchus surrounded himself with go from these beautiful people or these wealthy upper class people to the working class, the peasant class. And this probably forced many audiences to reevaluate the world around them. And that is what the Baroque period and art history as a whole is all about. Some other notable works by Velázquez are Las Meninas, where he challenges the perspective of viewer and painter by adding a mirror in the background and showing us as the viewer who we are supposed to be. If you look at this painting, you're looking at the Princess of Spain, the King and Queen's daughter, but if you look behind her, there's a mirror in the background showing us that we are the King and Queen, watching our daughter, her handmaids, and Velázquez himself to the left, painting us. So he was a really talented painter, a really forward-thinking painter, and I've enjoyed learning about him. I hope you've enjoyed learning about him, and I hope you learn more about him after watching this video. If you liked the video, give it a thumbs up, subscribe to my channel. Thank you for watching.